All right, my friends, welcome back to Real Estate Bites. This is episode number 68. Hey, man, normally I start with a little bit of humor, try to get a chuckle out of you, get your attention. Your boy's not feeling too humorous today, so we are going to skip that part. I'm going to jump right into it, and it is that time of year where dues have come up. Quarterly checks are being written for taxes, and this time of year, I can't help but sit back and think about where my money's going, right? So I'm sorry, but today I'm going to pitch a bitch at you guys, and I'm going to break one of my cardinal rules, which is if you have a complaint and you want to field that complaint, come with a solution as well. I got to admit to you guys, I don't have a solution about these things that I'm about to start bitching about because they're bigger than me. They're over my head. But as I sit back and I observe these things, I can't help, these things, they grill my cheese, okay? Now, what I'm talking about specifically, I want to talk about NAR, right? And what it means to be a realtor, NAR, what are they doing for us as realtors, et cetera? Once upon a time, being a realtor separated you from being a real estate agent. It gave you an extra level of professionalism and training. Realtors were a professional organization that had a code of ethics, that had continuing education and additional training that separated the realtor from the real estate agent. Now, most states in the union that I'm aware of, certainly Ohio, has a licensing process, a canon of ethics, required continuing education, and all that kind of stuff just to maintain your license. So the state has sort of stepped in and assumed that role that the National Association of Realtors and their state associations once held exclusively as being the professional board, the professional organization of realtors. So if they've lost that role, then what have they moved into? And as we all know, it's advocacy. Advocacy is now the primary function of the National Association of Realtor and their state affiliates. And what really has got me going lately about being a realtor, about the National Association of Realtor, is how they seem to have gone out with a whimper in regards to these lawsuits. Now listen, before we go any further, please understand, I'm not complaining because the rules have changed. It doesn't bother me at all. The rules have changed. It's business as usual. Right sales team is playing this game to win, and we're doing it, okay? We're doing just fine. I'm not worried about the rule changes. You tell me what the rules are, and we're playing, baby. Let's go. But the reality is this. A handful of Midwestern attorneys successfully completed the largest shakedown of the industry in history, okay? A handful of attorneys just shook the real estate industry down for $500 million. And in the end, only those attorneys are going to reap the benefits of what has changed. You might even say that realtors, independent real estate agents who are successful in their business, who take care of people, are also reaping the benefit of the change. We have seen recently that buyers agents are starting to get paid a touch more than they were prior to these rule changes, because now we have to protect our compensation right off the rip instead of letting someone else dictate it. The real losers are first-time home buyers, buyers in general, who now have to structure their deal differently, or, it has not made the affordability of homes any easier. It's only made it worse in the middle of an affordability crisis. That is what NAR going down in a whimper has done, right? They give it up. So what is use? Where's my money going? What's it doing? And I looked it up. Like, I'll show you this. When I'm thinking about this stuff, I looked up, I think I Googled like victories for National Association of Realtors. So it takes me to this. This is This is Realtor Magazine, a part of the National Association of Realtors, written by Stacy Moncrief, okay? And what they talk about in here, they start talking about, the millions of dollars that they invested in independent expenditure campaigns, the millions of dollars that they've granted for state and local associations supporting or opposing ballot measures. So really what we're doing, and let's break this down a little bit here, guys. It's $156 a year to be a member of the National Association of Realtors. And to talk about the stranglehold that the NAR has on the industry, I don't know of a brokerage in Northeast Ohio that you could join and not be a realtor and pay these dues. $156 is simply the national portion of what you owe. Then you owe state portions, local board dues, blah, 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 whatever. Anyways, $156 a year to be a part of the National Association of Realtors. In February of 2024, there was a roster of realtors. There were 1,515,837 realtors registered with NAR nationwide. Folks, that is, in realtor dues alone, $236,470,572, nearly $250 million a year NAR collects in realtor dues. And with that kind of power, that kind of a bankroll, and they let a handful of attorneys from the Midwest steamroll them. I mean, they capitulated. They gave up the ship early. There are still brokers out there who are still fighting against the results of these lawsuits or the findings of these lawsuits, but not the National Association of Realtors. They capitulated quickly. So what's our money going for? This advocacy. What is this advocacy? We just talked about, basically, it's buying politicians. So I also looked up 50 years plus of advocacy wins for realtors. And it starts at 1970, goes all through, and they talk about the big highlight, the big victories for the year. And listen, guys, it's not all bad, okay? It's not all bad. There have been a lot of tax relief that they have fought for, a lot of tax incentives that they have fought for that help real estate professionals, small business owners, people within the real estate industry, right? So there are some good things that have been done. There's also a whole lot of legislation, right? And a whole lot of politician buying. National Association of Realtors is one of the big three. They're one of the top three lobby groups in Washington, buying the souls of politicians every single day, okay? We'll get back to those politicians here in a minute. So 50 years of funding new legislation, of filling the swamp full of their cash, of creating more red tape, more bureaucracy, which eventually means more cost. And the more you understand too, legislation is the government interfering with the free markets. Here's a very recent example. The inflation that we're feeling today, the unaffordability of homes, okay? This huge run-up in home values that we've seen over the past 4 years is a direct result of our governments, state and federal, interfering with local markets, okay? When you pump out cash into the economy and the more cash chases the same amount of goods and services, the price of those goods and services goes up. It's inevitable. Greater money supply, same amount of goods and services. To find balance, the price of those goods and services goes up. We see inflation. Who does that hurt? It hurts the poor and the middle class, the same people they always say they're trying to help, okay? So I might argue that the NAR has only been feeding the corruption and the machine that has only continued to make things, you tell me, is it better or is it worse than it was 30 years ago? Right? We keep hearing the rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer. That's not just a saying, that's statistically found, okay? That's what our due money is going towards, buying these politicians. And, I don't care what anybody thinks about the recent election. I can tell you personally, many of the people whom I voted for made it into office. But I'm not going to stand up on a mountaintop and cheer just yet, because you know what? In the past, both sides have taken their turns owning the White House, the Senate, the Congress, sometimes owning a trifecta, and things continue to escalate. The rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer, our rights keep being eroded. Okay? Is NAR just complicit with all of that when they're supporting this legislation that creates more bureaucracy, more red tape, more suck on our finances, right? Whenever I cut these quarterly checks to the federal government, and I'm thinking about where my money is being spent around the world, how many people are dying based on the tax money we sent, I feel sick. I feel sick when I send off my dues. I just want us to think about why we are so smitten, or that's not a great word, but why do we accept these institutions so easily when you can look around and see that in a general level, things generally get better. Technology helps that. The standard of living around the world is better, but we know things could be much better. We know that things could be much better in the United States. We know that while we send billions overseas to fund wars, and yet we give nothing to our own people who are suffering from natural disaster, Hawaii, California, Florida, North Carolina, these folks get nothing. But we'll fund these wars overseas. Well, we fund wars all over the place, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. And I want us to consider our trust in these institutions. And that finishes my bitch for today. I'm going to move on. We're going to get into our statistics for the week. A little different here as well. So let's share the screen, pull up this week's stats. All right. So want to talk a bit about what's going on in the market that's slightly different than normal. Here it is, episode 68, 464 single-family homes and condos were on the market in Lorain County this morning, 70 sales this past week. So I really want to talk about inventory, because I have maintained that inventory is the name of the game. Even though demand has shrunk, low inventory has kept prices higher. Now, I've heard people talk recently about how this low inventory, or actually inventory, is climbing, and it's getting better and it's getting better. And as you can see, it is kind of climbing and getting better. I mean, 5 years ago, there was still nearly triple the amount of homes on the market here in Lorain County than there are today. However, I found this. I subscribed to, the newsletter from Mortgage News Daily, and they sent me this article, An Uncommon Pattern Emerging in Existing Home Inventory. And I wanted to take a look at this to try to understand what's going on. So as you can see, existing home sales, you can see the huge drop in existing home sales from 2020, 2022 to current day, right? And it goes on to show, when did this happen? Well, it started happening when rates started climbing. But then they start talking about here, existing home inventory. And what you're seeing, these little circles represent the peaks of inventory by year, right? 2020, post-pandemic, we saw inventory drop considerably, talk about that all the time. And the peaks are always here in the summertime. However, last year it changed. The peak didn't happen until late in the year. And in 2024, same thing, the peak's not happening until late in the year. It says here in the article that we haven't even seen the peak yet, right? I think we're seeing the peak right now. So let's take a look at our stats again and see if we can't see this trend. 464. So let's go back to the beginning when I started doing this, August of 23. You can see I really didn't start keeping track of daily inventory until the end of September, right? And so here's the end of the season. This is 23. And as you can see reflected in those numbers we just showed in the chart, again, here we're looking at column C. Sorry about that. Column C is inventory. as you can see, it wasn't until November that we saw the peak in inventory, late November, early December. And then inventory shrunk and it got low in spring, this slower season. It stayed low. It stayed low. Now we're into summer. It's still in the low, mid 300s, higher 300s. It starts to climb in the fall. And you can see it's peaking here in November again. And so why is that happening? And I'm going to tell you this, guys. I looked into it a bit. One of the things they speculated about in that article was, is it happening because there's simply more homes coming on the market? Or is it that more homes are staying on the market longer? And I tend to believe that that is the case. Of this 464 homes available on the market this morning, 290 of those homes have been on the market for more than 30 days. And as you can see, the median market time for sales closed last week was 28. So to be on the market for 30 days it's kind of a long time here in this low inventory situation. That means we are looking at all-time low demand still. Moving on with our stats, 70 closings last week. The median square foot of those homes closed was 1,776. God bless America. Median home value was $263,450. Median home price, $163.88. So that stays high. It continues to increase. And I'm wondering, and I've been wondering now for a month at least, this low demand, this 290 homes that are still on the market, 30 days plus, are we going to see an impact on this median square foot value here as we walk through the first quarter of 2025? This morning, 7.04% was the interest rate on a 30-year conventional mortgage. And the big sale last week was $760,000 in the city of Avon. I'm going to take you to look at this guy. Look at this giant beauty here. This is on Mills Road. It sat on 2 acres, 4-bed, 3.5 bath, 3,400 square feet. Big, beautiful home. And like last week when I talked about how upgrades could have made a huge difference, look at this giant, beautiful home. I mean, a huge 5-car garage out back with another 2.5-car garage right next to it. I mean, is this a barn? Is it a workshop? I don't know. Is it somebody's fancy car collection? You know, two acres that you could sit there and hunt on in your backyard. I mean, this place is awesome, right? All right, let's get into the home. Take a look at the finishes. All this natural oak finish, okay? Just like last week, we talked about this. If all this was redone, in more modern day finishes. So this home was built in 2003, and these were still the in-fashion finishes 20 plus years ago. If this was changed to ply cabinets with either laminate or, you know, some color painted, stone tops, marble tops, you know, if your finish was solid colors, you know, add some color pop on the walls, you know, if it was more modernized, this beauty is over $1 million, guys. Over $1 million. They could have realized, what I say, 760, they could have realized another $300,000 plus had this home been updated prior to sale. But this place, still awesome. Crazy green carpet or not. Beautiful house. All right, guys. That's it for today. I appreciate you guys joining me as always. I've got some interesting episodes coming up talking about 203K loans, talking about USDA loans, talking about potential solutions that government could maybe help out with here in the future. These are all coming up as we round out the year. Look forward to seeing you in those future episodes. Thank you for joining me. If you like what you see here, please share this with your friends, your family. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. We'll see you next week.